What's up everyone? Thank you for clicking on this video. Today I want to talk to you about a topic that I very much like, and it will be the top 3 Vietnamese books that are translated into English. Now before we get started, so kind of my criteria for choosing these books is how well they depict the lifestyle, the history, the culture of Vietnam during their respective times. So for this list, I chose a book from 3 different time periods of Vietnamese history. One from the dynasty era, another from the colonial era, and another from the war era. So without any further waiting, let's get right into it. So the first book that we have is Truyện Kieu, or in English, The Tale of Kieu. Now this book was written in 1820 by a man named Nguyễn, and it was during the Nguyễn dynasty of Vietnam. And since then, it's grown to become a symbol of national pride among the Vietnamese. The plot is about a young woman named Kieu who goes through just hardship after hardship after hardship. Really messed up stuff. It coming from that kind of period, it has a lot of Confucian and Buddhist themes to it. Now this story actually comes from an old Chinese novel. What makes this Vietnamese is the way Nguyễn writes it, because he writes it as an epic poem, and he does it in this very traditional Vietnamese style of verse. It's called Lục Bát. Nguyễn is able to maintain that throughout the whole epic poem for 3,254 lines. He has all these double hidden meanings throughout the whole poem. Always something more than face value within the verses that he writes. Not only that, but he's very meticulous with the words that he chooses, because he's able to maintain this musicality in the epic poem. And so because of that, Nguyễn just really flexing and just doing the most with the Vietnamese language, that it's become the symbol of national pride. He's showing that the language, look our language, look how beautiful and how much depth our language can convey. So if you do decide to pick this up, make sure to get the edition where they have both the Vietnamese and the English right next to each other. To really do it justice, you gotta at least take a peek at the Vietnamese. The next book on this list, Số Đỏ, or in English, Dumb Luck. Now this book was written in 1936 by a man named Trọng, one of my favorite Vietnamese authors, and it was during the colonial era of Vietnam. This book is about a young man who kind of grew up on the streets and how he rises up through all levels of Vietnamese colonial society. It's not really because of this young man's skill, but it's more because the society and everyone around him is just stupid or acting ridiculous. Trọng is kind of holding up a mirror to Vietnamese colonial society and showing look how ridiculous you're acting, and he makes fun of it, all these different aspects of Vietnamese colonial society. Because Vietnam at this time, the people were adopting these French colonial values, but they were adopting it so quickly, full-heartedly, that they didn't really understand the whole point of doing it. They just felt like it made them better than the rest of Vietnamese society because they were modern, they were fancy, they were bougie. I can see the parallels of how Vietnamese society is also today, because in Vietnam you are getting a lot of foreign media coming in, and this want in Vietnam to want to embrace these kinds of things, to be cool, be modern, all that. So you see the parallels from back then and until now. Trọng is just a funny guy. This is one of the few books I've ever read that actually make me laugh out loud. And finally, we have Những, Thiên, or in English, Paradise of the Blind. So this book was written in 1988 by a former member of the Vietnamese Communist Party, Hương. But the story itself starts from 1954 until 1980. And in it, it's about a family who must deal with the policies and politics of communist North Vietnam at the time. In it, one of the family members is a cadre of the Vietnamese Communist Party, and he truly believes in the good and the virtues of communist ideology. But his sister is dating a landlord and considered to be an evil landlord. It brings out this drama between family members. It showcases how Vietnamese traditional family values come in clash with communist ideology. And it's all from the perspective of the young woman, the daughter of the evil landlord and the mother. So one of the things I've always really liked about this is how well it depicts arguments within Vietnamese families. And trust me, there are a lot of arguments. While I was reading this, I had these moments where I was like, oh shoot, this is something like my family would argue about. Sometimes it's very like rough, it's very raw, but it can be very subtle too. And so what I always loved about this like kind of story is that how much it humanizes this experience of living in North Vietnam during the time. Because you get both perspectives. You get the perspective of someone who believes in communism, and you have someone whose life is ruined by it. And you really get to see like these kinds of policies, these acts that the Communist Party were carrying out. You get to see its direct impact on the lives of people. It's not just some kind of like history lesson anymore. It humanizes the whole experience. But that's my list. I hope you all get to check out these books if any of them interest you at all. And let me know in a comment below your top Vietnamese books, whether in English or not, because I'm always open to checking out more Vietnamese literature and just content. And speaking of Vietnamese content, if you'd like to see more from my channel, go ahead and subscribe, because I will definitely be coming through with more Vietnamese content. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.